Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Life Show. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It is a great day to be great. It's a great day to break down all sorts of cool things ahead of week 3, everybody. 120 minutes of football in the rearview mirror, many more to go. So we got some early performers that have been pretty great, but will it continue? We got some defensive propaganda. We're also breaking down some of the worst beats that we have seen that you guys have actually sent into the show today. So plenty to get to. And of course, I am joined by the one, the only Jake Honey Badger Trowbridge. Mr. Jake, how are you?
Ooh, I'm doing so well. I'm going to have to try to earn that nickname the rest of this show. But, Ian, I got to be honest. You said the words bad beat, and all I could think of was my home league. I'm panicking over here starting 0-2, Ian. What do I do? Help me out, man.
0-2? Oh, man. Are you going to be the person that just tries to blame it on your points allowed? Like defense isn't a major part of being a fantasy manager?
I've already started that. I've started laying the groundwork for all my league mates. So I've got the excuses just slowly oozing out into the group chat. I'll be fine.
I hope so, man. I hope so. But man, Jake, it has been a hectic week. We got Joe Burrow out. We got 4 or 5 backup quarterbacks playing this week. Now we're getting more than some other top guys. Tyler Warren and company are missing practice. I mean, Jake, what a week, huh?
This has been brutal. I say this every year, which feels like around the same time. This has been the most brutal year for injuries this early in the season since last season, I guess, because it seems like we always get some unexpected news, but this seems extra brutal, especially quarterback wise. Ian, are you on like full panic mode to be able to start a competent quarterback in fantasy at this point?
Well, I'm in a super flex league where I got cute thinking that I didn't need to, spend 100% of my fab to go get Jake Browning for my poor past Joe Burrow. So now I guess we're going to roll with Tyrod Taylor for a week and see what happens after that. So yeah, absolutely, Jake. If you're not panicking right now, then you are not doing fantasy football, right? That said, again, we're here, guys, to hopefully get those rosters in a better spot ahead of what should still be as another eventful week 3. So with that in mind, let's get into it, guys. Time for our DraftKings opening lines. One of these days, Jake, you will hit me with my captain. It's Wednesday when I set you up for it with all the injuries going on, but not this week. This week, we will be going through all these injuries again and getting those minds and rosters right ahead of the weekend. So kicking things off with some quarterback updates. Justin Fields is officially out with a concussion, and that will mean Tyrod Taylor, the artist formerly known as Ty God, will be under center for the Jets ahead of their matchup against the Buccaneers. So rough one. I think I am going to be using the Buccaneers as my survivor pick. Also, if you guys are in survivor, make sure you check out my 10 things article that should be live on fantasylife.com by the time you guys are listening to us. I went through some of the top teams like the Buccaneers, Chiefs, Chargers, all those sorts of squads, try to pinpoint later in the season where they might have those easiest matchups so you don't waste them beforehand. So again, we kind of knew that, Jake, but also got maybe a little bit of optimism with Jaden Daniels, not practicing with a knee injury. However, Dan Quinn did say we're going to be smart, not just fast, won't practice until Friday at the earliest. So there was a situation last year, though, I think it was before the Bears game, where a lot of people expected him to actually get the week off, and they ended up again bringing him back on Friday and ultimately got out there on Sunday. So it will be Marcus Mariota if not. Jake, how much would you be downgrading guys like Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and of course future Hall of Famer Bill Krosky-Merritt if we do end up having Mariota under center?
Mariota is the worst case scenario for a majority of teams. No disrespect to the man, but for fantasy purposes, he just has not delivered like top tier fantasy performances for many wide receivers or running backs or tight ends for that matter, outside of like Delaney Walker a decade ago. So I would be downgrading Terry McLaurin quite a bit. He's already not as good as we want him to be. This makes him an even more fringe candidate. Deebo Samuel, you got to hope would still be fine just because of his versatility. But he's not, the set it and forget it Deebo that we've experienced these last couple of weeks here. So all of a sudden, I'm not that thrilled for my Commanders, but it's hard to get too many of them out of your lineup, I think.
To Mariota's credit, he was pretty good in 2 part-time appearances last year. That said, they also came against the Panthers and the Cowboys. So the Clint Kubiak special, if you will, in terms of bringing out the most of an offensive system. Moving on, though, we do have Emeka Egbuka, unfortunately, popping up with an early week DNP, hip, and groin injuries. Meanwhile, Chris Godwin is still practicing in a limited fashion, coming back from that, again, brutal ankle issue. So still thinking we're a couple weeks away with Godwin. Again, we never want to see guys missing practice, but it was a physical, obviously, Monday night game there for Egbuka and a lot of these other Buccaneers Buccaneers. So I wouldn't be too worried right now, guys. If we do continue to see the DMP on Thursday, that is when things will be a little bit more up in the air for, again, what's just been a fantastic start to a rookie season for the Ohio State University's all-time reception leader. Jake, also some good news, though, for Dallas Goedert. He is back at practice with a knee injury. Not good news, though, in Indianapolis. We have Tyler Warren and Josh Downs not practicing with toe and ankle issues, respectively. So, again, it's Wednesday. I don't want to freak out, but I will say, Jake, it's a little bit scary based on what we've been seeing with toes flying around that we're seeing Tyler Warren now dealing with one.
Yeah, get the NFL's toe committee involved this year. This is getting absurd, ridiculous. Like, they can have one of mine if that's what it takes to get him back out and in the lineup, I suppose. But yeah, it's worrying, especially for Tyler Ward. Like, that's such a big hit to a guy that came on so strong. I don't want to see his amazing rookie season derailed by something like this. But again, you said it. It's Wednesday. We shouldn't be freaking out just yet. And yet I'm going to freak out just a little bit until we get good news.
Speaking of more potential good news, more potential bad news, that's how injuries go, as you guys know. Brock Purdy with his toe and left shoulder will be limited actually in practice with Wednesday. Kyle Shanahan even said he has a chance to play in week 3. So the way Mac Jones looked, I wouldn't be surprised if they err on the side of caution and try to give Purdy, again, an extra week off just before he is fully ready to go. But for right now, looking like he actually could be back in action for that NFC West matchup there against the Cardinals. Meanwhile, we have Juwan Jennings not practicing to start the week with that ankle injury that popped up that Shanahan said could be a problem just in terms of, like, again, practice participation wise, and also that shoulder injury. So we'll see with Juwan Jennings. Obviously, as tough as they come, but yeah, not great that we now have an ankle on top of the shoulder issue. Finally, some Thursday night injury updates, Jake. We have Darren Waller once again ruled out with a hip injury. Seems like we're trending towards a situation where he might not play a single snap for the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle is questionable with the shoulder. That said, he was also on the injury report last week with the shoulder. He was limited throughout last week and then practiced in full on Friday. Didn't have a questionable tag. This week he does have the questionable tag. However, he was still practicing in a limited fashion. So I am cautiously optimistic that Jalen Waddle is going to be out there. That said, Jake, I mean, this is a beatdown. Like, is there anything that this Dolphins team needed less than having to go into Buffalo to face on Josh Allen and these guys? Like, they've lost 6 straight meetings against them, man. And again, it was good to see them come back against the Patriots after a rough first quarter last week, but I'm not so sure the Bills are going to be quite as willing to, take that bit off their throat if they get a chance.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you look at it and say, okay, I guess go ahead and fire up Tyreek Hill. But even that, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get him in my lineups because by default, he has to be in your lineups. But it does look like one of those situations where the Bills could just put a clamp down on the offense in general a little bit. And we could leave with not the festive amount of fantasy points that we would like to experience from a matchup like this. I was hoping for at least a slop fest that resulted in a lot of fantasy points. I don't even know if we're going to get that, Ian.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure the Bills are going to be putting up plenty of points. We'll see if the Dolphins have what it takes to, hold up their end of the bargain there. Also note the Bills defense will be without stud linebacker Matt Milano and defensive tackle Ed Oliver. So maybe that could help, Tua and company's path to scoring more points. Finally, just a few defensive injuries that are notable enough. Chargers edge Khalil Mack with a dislocated elbow is going to be hitting on IR. Not season-ending surgery, but again, this Jesse Minter defense for the Chargers has really been strong to start this season, and just losing Mack again isn't going to exactly help their cause, continuing to be elite. Also have Patriots cornerback Christian Gonzalez returning to practice on Wednesday from that hamstring injury. Patriots have turned into one of these pass funnel defenses. More on that here in a little bit, where again, teams have had success throwing the football. So I would really like this matchup here for DK Metcalf potentially blowing up. That said, if Gonzalez is going to be back and healthy, he is one of the league's better number 1 cornerbacks. Finally, Falcons cornerback AJ Terrell with his own hamstring injury is considered week to week. Could be good news for Tedderell McMillan, Jake, someone who, let's face it, is probably already going to be in the most starting lineups in the first place. But man, no AJ Terrell, certainly down to bump him up the ranks even further and really cement him as a must-start option this week. So guys, let's get into now some buying or selling key early season performers. This has been our DraftKings opening lines. I've teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook to bring you the ultimate way to kick off this NFL season. Right now, new customers who bet just $5 will get $200 instantly in bonus bets and $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube. That's right, new customers bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets plus $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using the promo code FANTASYLIFE. The crown is yours. Stack your bonus bets on same-game parlays, money line spreads, and more, or ride the momentum with live betting that makes every snap count. So here's your your play. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with promo code FANTASYLIFE. Bet just $5 and you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly, plus $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube. Thanks to DraftKings Sportsbook for sponsoring this. Let's make this NFL season one to remember. Jake, it's only been 2 weeks, but sometimes that's all you need to know that a player is in store for a big season. And accordingly, we have 5 guys we're going to be talking through who really have been racking up the fantasy points early and buying or selling them, continuing to do so. This is Buying or Selling presented by the fine folks over at Xfinity. Kicking things off, Jake, we do have Chargers QB Justin Herbert, QB 5 after 2 weeks of action, looking great. Running the ball, has at least 30 rushing yards in both these games. And throwing the ball, man, again, pick any advanced efficiency metric you want. He is setting career high marks in it at this point. So Herbert's looking better than ever, Jake. Are you buying or selling him, remaining an upside QB1 in Fantasyland the rest of the way?
Ian, I don't want to start off on a negative, but I fear that I'm going to just a little bit because I do want to temper expectations, I think, about Justin Herbert, only because what we've seen so far, he's looked great, but the Chargers are 23rd in the league in pass attempts per game, and most of the teams below that mark have a dual threat quarterback, a la Hurts, Lamar, Kyler. I don't know that we should expect Justin Herbert to continue running as much as he has. We might finally see Amari and Hampton start to sneak in and get more touches as he comes up to speed as a rookie. And I also want to say Herbert's 8.2% touchdown rate is kind of absurd right now. It's behind only Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff, and it's way higher than his mark last year, which is like average 4.6%. That's about what we expect from quarterbacks. So I think there's probably going to be some touchdown regression that's on the horizon. I know people hate to hear that, but I also think that the Chargers will start to bump up in their abysmal yards per rush attempt right now. They're 28th in the league. They've got no rushing touchdowns. That all has to kind of balance out a little bit. That doesn't mean I'm not starting Justin Herbert. I just don't think that the upside is quite what we've seen so far the rest of the way.
No rushing touchdowns for those guys. Again, Hampton had not 1, not 2, but 3 different opportunities to try to pound one in at the goal line. Could not quite get there. So again, that's a different story. That'd be more underperformers who we will be buying or selling coming back on. So I hear you, with Herbert not exactly being this top 5 guy necessarily the rest of the way. But man, it's one of those things where if we do see this drop back rate over expected, guys continue to keep up. By the way, you can find all that and more over in the utilization tools over at Fantasy Life under Team Styles. I mean, it is a situation where we know Herbert's good enough to be doing this. It's just always kind of been a question of the volume that is going to be afforded to him. So Chargers right now, number 1 in drop back rate over expected, which I just do not exactly expect to stick, throughout the rest of this season. So they got the Broncos this week, certainly a tough matchup, despite the fact that Daniel Jones and company certainly did make them look very, overcomerable, if that is a word, this last Sunday. After that, though, Jake, Giants, Commanders, and Dolphins, at least those Giants and Dolphins games, I could see the Chargers getting a lead and trying to get back to run the football with a bit more consistency and hopefully efficiency for all you American Hampton fantasy managers out there. Let's talk about buying or selling Jake Chuba Hubbard, who is the RB7, which honestly is pretty wild because the Panthers have had back-to-back games where they faced very negative game scripts in the second half as they've fallen behind by multiple touchdowns, basically. Yet Chuba Hubbard has really kept on keeping on, not through rushing the ball, but actually catching the ball, which was honestly not expected to be a big part of his game after they brought in Rico Dowdle this offseason. So Jake, buying or selling Chuba Hubbard as a legit fantasy RB1?
Man, I got to say, I was wrong on Chuba Hubbard this offseason. I'm buying. This is a wild experience. It's a wild ride so far because of what you mentioned. It's not getting it done through, just pure rushing yards. He's catching the ball, but he's doing it like a workhorse. I mean, he's got 70% of the team's rushing attempts. So he's getting involved there. It's just that it's absurd. The dude has 2 receiving touchdowns already. That is, by the way, the same number of receiving touchdowns that he had in his previous 4 years in the NFL. So we can't guarantee more receiving touchdowns the rest of the way, but just the fact that he's running 63% of the routes does speak to his continued involvement in the passing game, at least. So, probably some positive touchdown regression coming from him in the rushing department as well. But I think, if he's going to get lapped by any of these other running backs, it's not going to be because he falls off. I think it's probably because there are some lackluster running backs right now that will get back to being quality running backs. Your Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara's, even hopefully these rookies like Hampton and Genty. So I think he will continue to put up similar respectable numbers, though, which is great.
I mean, look, he's going to fall back at least as a receiver a little bit because Jake, he had 2 receiving touchdowns in his first 64 career games. Now he has 2 to start this season. Okay. So there is going to be some, negative regression, if you will, from that standpoint. But at the same time, again, the fact he is just being useful and catching the ball and not being covered a lot when he does it and making the most out of it. But man, these numbers add up. And guess what? Style points don't matter in fantasy land. And guys, as it stands through 2 weeks, only 4 running backs have at least 25 PPR points from receiving. Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and as you can probably guess, because we're in a Chuba Hubbard section, yes, Chuba Hubbard himself as well. So, Jake, the workload, again, just really can't say enough good things about it. Looking at Dwayne McFarland's critically acclaimed utilization score, top running backs this year are Christian McCaffrey, Bijan, Saquon, Achane, Bucky Irving, Javonte Williams, because, of course, we are living in a freaking weird version of this simulation in the year 2025. But then as the RB7, man, it is Chuba Hubbard. So no, I don't necessarily think the Panthers are all of a sudden going to just find this way to be this great team and all of a sudden be giving Chuba a lot of positive game script. But if we can hopefully, Jake, and I think we saw steps to this down the stretch of their week 2 loss to the Cardinals, if the Panthers can at least get back to being a fun, bad team where Bryce Young is putting up some numbers, keeping games close, not letting things get too out of hand. That's all I think we need for Chuba, because we've already seen like the worst case scenario scripts and he's not being driven off the field in those. So keep things somewhat close. And I think I'm buying him as an RB1 the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'd be sending some trade offers for folks who think that this can't possibly keep happening, because we clearly think that it does. And also just pouring out for Rico Dowdle. I had higher hopes for him coming in thinking that he could at least carve out a substantial role. I don't think he's going to do it, Ian. So yeah, up, wheels all the way up on Chuba Hubbard.
Loving us some Chuba Hubbard. So, Jake, are we loving us some Jaylen Warren sitting as the RB13 through 2 weeks of action? Actually got some kind words from Aaron Rodgers, who said, quote, "We might have to keep giving him more opportunities in the pass game because every time he touches it, something good happens." And man, he's right, man, especially last week. That was one of the more impressive receiving performances I've seen from a running back really in recent memory, man. He hurled over a guy on one, and then just that 68-yard catch and run, already an early front runner, I would say, for the best individual play by a running back this season. So I said, Jake, RB13 is pretty lofty for a guy that, let's face it, has been an RB3 more years than not during his short career. Buying or selling Jaylen Warren, Jake, we'll say as an upside RB2 in Fantasyland.
I am somewhat selling this, Ian, and it's not because of his individual talent, which, again, you saw in that 65-yard catch and run, which was just fantastic. It was absolutely sick. I want to watch that every week, at least twice. But the question I think we have to ask is, how long can Aaron Rodgers keep Caleb Johnson, the rookie, in the doghouse? Because I think that's the answer to this question with Jaylen Warren, who's always struck me as, yes, more of the 1B in a backfield than like a dominant 1. So for what it's worth, Rodgers also had some somewhat positive words for Johnson as well. He told him to keep his confidence up after he had some blunders this past week. And then also, how many 65-yard catch and runs can Jaylen Warren muster this year? I would love to see, again, twice per week, please, Jaylen, but I don't think that that's going to happen. So he's meanwhile splitting basically down the middle with Kenny Gainwell and snaps. KG's running more routes and actually getting more targets, which is kind of crazy. Maybe that backs off, but I just don't see him being sort of given enough of a workload consistently to keep living up to this, Ian.
Again, he's making the most out of the receiving work. Rushing's been a little bit tough sledding, honestly, for all these Steelers running backs, but career low 3.4 yards per carry for Warren. That offensive line, again, hasn't exactly been great in recent years, and they didn't really do enough, I would say, this offseason to make us believe it was going to be a major improvement. Plus, when you have someone like Rodgers under center, who, again, is giving you no threat in the read option game, unlike someone like Justin Fields, and even to, a lesser extent, Russell Wilson, it makes sense that it has been, again, tough for Warren, Gainwell, and even the 2 attempts or whatever it has been. We've seen Caleb Johnson get much going on the ground. So I will say, Jaylen Warren, despite all this, does join Bijan Robinson as the league's only running backs to be leading their team in both rushing and receiving. So again, he's racking up the yards right now, but to Jake's point, maybe a little, I don't like calling really big plays like that fluky, because guess what? Worse players wouldn't have made the plays, and we need to give Jaylen Warren credit for that. But to your point, yeah, I don't think we can be expecting too many instances where he's going to be breaking 4 or 5, tackles and then just rumbling, stumbling, bumbling his way down the field. So I will say though, Jake, this is a situation where the Steelers, I think, have actually been, I know last week kind of got away from, especially after Caleb, let that kick return bounce off his hands and turn into an immediate touchdown. But they've looked good enough on offense and bad enough on defense that I actually think we could be getting some more game scripts that actually fit Jaylen Warren as a pass catcher. The tricky part is what you brought up. Like, we can't be seeding away targets and stuff to Kenneth Gainwell, because that is our path to success for Jaylen Warren. I mean, as someone who drafted a lot of them this offseason, of course I'm pleased with the start, but this really wasn't the process I had planned out. I'm happy enough for it to be going this way, Jake, but I figured that we'd be looking at maybe 175, 200 carries as the second banana on early downs to Caleb Johnson, but then that sweet pass game upside, 70, 80 targets as the clear-cut number one back in the receiving game. So if we can, again, hopefully Aaron's got his word into, Arthur Smith and everything. If we can get Jaylen Warren that more featured pass down role, that's where I think I would be buying this upside RB2 stuff continuing, because again, I think the Steelers are being set up now as an offense who isn't very good but can move the ball. Only has one guy in DK Metcalf we expect to be consistently featured over Warren in the passing game. And that defense, man, I don't know if it's just 2 weeks or what, but the fact they have made Justin Fields and Sam Darnold look as good as they have in these first 2 weeks, man. TJ Watt, good thing he got his money, man, because I think if he was out trying to have that conversation right now, it would not be going as well.
Yeah, I've seen numerous former Steelers defensive players come out and call them out for how bad their defense has been, already calling for heads to start rolling. I mean, look, I don't think we should overreact too much to 2 weeks. We've seen them be so much better than this in the past. They brought in so many veterans that should help. So, I mean, for fantasy, I hope that they continue being this bad, because it would be great for Jaylen Warren and heck, all the gang, DK Metcalf, even Calvin Austin. Maybe we could finally make him a flex-worthy play if they continue being this poor.
Most yards per play on defense this year. Bears are the league's worst group at 7.1. Patriots in second at 6.6. Cowboys in third at 6.4. Your Pittsburgh Steelers in fourth at 6.3. So again, obviously not just on TJ Watt. I know they've had their issues in the secondary, brought in some guys a little bit older, maybe not performing quite as well as they thought. Also lost Minka Fitzpatrick, but again, not going so well on defense, which, yeah, sucks for Steelers fans, but not the worst thing in the world for the pass game weapons there in Pittsburgh. Last two, Jake, we are sticking back to the Chargers here, because Quentin Johnson, don't look now, guys, is the wide receiver 7 in full PPR scoring. Meanwhile, Keenan Allen is wide receiver 12. Does this make me very sad as someone who spent plenty of afternoons drafting Ladd McConkey this offseason? Yes, but I do think better days will be ahead for the, again, second-year talent there in Los Angeles. But Jake, again, this is more so a question of, can QJ and Keenan keep up something close to this? Okay, no, I'm not saying are you buying or selling QJ and Keenan being a wide receiver 1 the rest of the way. That'd be crazy if it happens, and kudos to them if it does. But just as, let's say, like a usable, maybe like low end wide receiver 2, upside wide receiver 3. You buying that for QJ and Keenan?
Usable? Sure. I can get on board with that. I can kind of buy that for both of these guys. If we take away some of the natural passing regression that I talked about with Justin Herbert, you still have to look at the touchdown marks for these guys. There are 5 touchdowns for this team. These guys have all 5 of those touchdowns. So that will have to start coming down. It just can't continue to happen that way, Ian. It cannot. But I also want to call out Quentin Johnston. The dude's looked so much better than he did last year. The drops seem to be, at least for now, a thing of the past. That's fantastic. Keenan Allen looks like he didn't lose a step. I was kind of thinking, Ian, that Keenan would be more of like a week 1, hey, it's great to have you back. Let's feed you a bunch of targets, and then you'll kind of slowly fade away type of deal. Hasn't happened yet, but Ladd being outside the top 35 receivers is also just, it cannot continue. So I do think 2 weeks in, there's going to be some rebalancing after this. Ladd is third among all wide receivers in separation, and he's running 90% of the routes in the Chargers offense. So those two numbers have to eventually come together and make some sweet math. So I think that it will rebalance. But yeah, both these guys, I think, can be usable in the right weeks.
Definitely down to buy low on Ladd McConkey. Again, I'd honestly be more willing to buy low on Ladd McConkey than even someone like A.J. Brown. Not that A.J. couldn't finish better than Ladd, but I just think he might be able to get even a better deal on Ladd versus someone like A.J.B., who I think, deservedly so is firmly more so viewed as this, likely wide receiver 1 bounce back candidate by the more casual observers out there, if you are. Not that there is anything wrong with that. So you said it though, Jake. I mean, Ladd this year, 14 targets. QJ also has 14. Keenan has a team high 17. I will say no one else on the Chargers Chargers has more than 4. So they are condensing everything around these big 3 wide receivers. And the same thing goes with the air yards. Those are actually led by Quentin Johnston with 198, Keenan 160, and Ladd in third place at 125. So again, unfortunate start, but it is only 2 weeks. Maybe Ladd, coming off of whatever that, lower body issue he had in August is just, a little bit slow to get back into things. But again, I think the bigger takeaway here should be that the Chargers so far have been willing to throw the football, and they've also been doing a really freaking good job at it. So again, I know we talked about Justin Herbert, made a potential for them to run the ball a little bit more. So that would go against, believing too much in these wide receivers. But again, I think it's that wide receiver 3 usable lines, okay? Because again, QJ, based on what we've seen for the last 2 calendar years, Jake's, he's dropped a couple balls, but go look at the drop leaderboards, okay? And you're going to see a lot of really good wide receivers who get a lot of targets, and accordingly, you end up dropping the ball because you're getting thrown to so much. And then Keenan Allen, man, even last year, like in a Bears offense that really didn't have many good things going for it at all, he was a rare bright spot, particularly there down the stretch after he got over that heel injury. So again, Chargers passing game certainly looking good for now. I would buy these guys as rest of season wide receiver 3 types, which again is a heck of a lot better than it was when we were drafting them in the wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6 range.
Yeah, I mean, if you got these guys on your teams, you're either A, a big Chargers homer, which is great, and that's lovely, or B, you just were projecting Ladd McConkey to kind of stink the rest of the year. And I hope that second group of people is very wrong and loses a lot of sleep these upcoming nights, because I've lost so much sleep about Ladd McConkey not dominating you.
Please, Ladd. We need it. We need it. Season's early. We're not panicking just yet. Jake's just losing sleep, which is understandable, but we need our guy to get some more of that beauty sleep. Come on now. So, guys, again, it's been buying or selling, brought to you by Xfinity. They're introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for the next 5 years, guaranteed. And with that, guys, let's get into some bad beats out here, all right? No bad beats, no bad meats. Brought to you by Kusos. Kusos and Fantasy Life are teaming up for the No Bad Beats, No Bad Meats campaign. Each week, we're picking 3 bad beat stories that you submitted and discussing the very real fantasy implications on the show. So go ahead and scan the QR code right here below to submit your stories for next week's episode. Again, get some free Kusos out of it, and we will talk about your bad beats. So it is one of these funny things, Jake, with bad beats. They're quite funny for us to talk about as long as, it didn't exactly happen to you. So again, guys, fun QR code here. It just seems like a cool situation for us to, again, hear about your stories, and also for you to hopefully get some cool Kusos, again, seasonings and stuff like that. Because if you are into grilling like me, man, they really do it better than just about anyone else. So with that, Jake, let's get into it. Our first one is from Michael. He sat Justin Fields. All right, here's his full story, okay? He drafted Justin Fields as his QB, picked up Bryce, and then played Bryce Young over Justin Fields in week 1, lost by 20, and the difference was 21 points. Yeah, nice start. That absolutely sucks. And then what do you do, Jake, when you get burned? You either go the complete opposite direction the next week, and then that finds a way to burn you because it's fantasy football. He went back, started Justin Fields in week 2, only got to 4 points. So, Michael, very sorry, man. That absolutely sucks. But that's just, again, when you have 2 QBs in fantasy land, Jake, sometimes you have none because you do freaking stuff like this.
That's why it's always so hard, Ian, when I go into a league where it's a 1 QB league. It's not super flex or anything like that. But I am hesitant to draft a second quarterback for this exact reason, because you want to play the matchup so bad. You want to pivot so badly when the first bad thing happens to you. It's the same reason I'm also hesitant to draft 2 tight ends, by the way. Although this year in my home league, I drafted Mark Andrews. So I kind of wish I drafted 2 tight ends. But I do think week 1, we look at, Ian, and it was Rodgers versus Jets. It was a dual revenge game with both of those quarterbacks going against their former teams. So maybe we should have expected more fireworks in week 1 and given Justin Fields a little bit more shrift there. But either way, brutal week 2. I mean, supposing he's out this week and Tyrod Taylor starts, he does get to come back in week 4 against a Miami defense that gave up back-to-back 3 touchdown weeks to Drake May and Danny Dimes. So, better things on the horizon there.
Again, sucks. And Bryce Young finished last year really well, so I'm not saying that you were completely out of your mind for starting Bryce. But when you are going with Fields, man, like you got to trust that, okay? There's going to be some lows, just like we saw last week, just like, and that's why we're talking about the bad beat. But, with Fields, again, he's someone where we are all very confident, just as long as he is healthy enough to run around for a full season, or at least in this case, 15, 16 games, he is going to be supplying QB1 value. So you just got to kind of go down with the ship, go on the roller coaster that is Justin Fields and Fantasyland. But yeah, Michael, did want to actually know about any other potential quarterbacks, especially for this week now with Justin Fields out of the picture. So it would be great if, before you even hear us right now, that you already picked up Daniel Jones. He was, again, our preferred waiver wire pickup over at Fantasy Life this week. But if not, Jake, I was looking on Yahoo. Michael Penix is still only rostered in 36% of leagues, and Jake Browning still only 18%. So I would say that, again, Daniel Jones number one, but if not, Jake Browning probably my number two.
Yeah. Are you going to be sick enough, Ian, to at least consider, if all the other good options are gone, Carson Wentz this week against the Cincinnati Bengals? Huh? It's a good defensive matchup. Can you trust? I don't know that he will even throw for 2 touchdowns. I don't know that I can get there, but I've seen a lot of people flaunting him as a possible option this week.
I don't know, man. I would pick Bryce Young, who presumably is still on Michael's bench, before I go to Carson Wentz, or honestly, even this week before Jake Browning. So look, Jake Browning, I think he's going to do good things for the Bengals. We got Chase, we got Higgins. He's got that backup irrational confidence that you want to see. Okay, there are going to be some booms, and he did good enough last week. Leading the Bengals obviously to that last second comeback win there. But yeah, overall, guys, I do think again just that Brian Flores Vikings defense very, very tough on opposing QBs who are not up for the challenge. So Bryce Young going up against the Falcons, man, like when we talk about just some of the most surprising, crazy games that we've had recently in the regular season, that week 1 Jets-Steelers game, and then also week 18 last year, the Panthers and Falcons, when they were putting up all kinds of points in that overtime shootout. So I would go back to Bryce Young this week, but best of luck, Michael. Thank you for your submission, and we are sorry again about how these first 2 weeks have panned out. But you know what, man? America loves a comeback, so keep your head up, get back there on the waiver wire and see what happens. From John, Jake, I'm not going to lie, this was a little bit more inexcusable. Started the Bears defense in week 2 in the Ben Johnson Bowl and wound up losing by 0.5 points. Kind of deserve it. I don't know if we can call it a bad beat. I'm not going to lie. Thank you for the submission, John. We're going to send you some cool stuff. But what are we doing with the Bears? How is there no better defense for you out there, man? We know they suck and they're playing the Lions. I know the Lions didn't look good in week 1. Maybe you just thought Ben Johnson knew all the tricks of the trade for Detroit and stuff. But man, this is just one of those things where, yeah, please don't start defenses against the Lions. And please, no matter who they're playing, do not start the Bears defense.
I mean, Ian, we were talking, or I was talking before about revenge matchups. This was the Ben Johnson revenge matchup. So if you buy into that narrative, I guess I could see it. It is super unfortunate. And also, I just have to point this out for anybody else who is considering starting a defense against the Lions, or even just playing offensive players against the Lions in fantasy. There's no such thing as like garbage time when you're playing Detroit. They will continue to just pummel and pummel and pummel. So if you think you're going to sneak one in because you'll say, well, they'll be terrible for the first 3 quarters, but in quarter 4, that's where I win my fantasy matchup. It's just probably not going to happen.
Speaking of Ben Johnson, he said today, Jake, I think our practice habits are yet to reflect a championship caliber team. I mean, they got to find out whoever's in charge of practice in Chicago. If that's the case, man, what are we doing here? Come on. So all Jake and joshing around aside, let's get to our last one here from David. Lost week 1 by 0.7 points because of the Kittle injury. So that just sucks, man. And again, as he was kind of saying in his quick little write-up, looked like it was going to be an easy win. I mean, the first quarter, Kittle was going nuts. I had him ranked as the tight end 1 overall, but unfortunately, we cannot control those darn injury gods and have good things. So David is now struggling at tight end and could use some options to target the position with Kittle out. So again, Juwan Johnson has been someone that we've been trying to hype up over these last 2 weeks as one of the top waiver wire claims. That said, I understand he probably already is picked up right now. So otherwise, Jake, I would say Harold Fannin still only rostered in 43% of Yahoo leagues. Brenton Strange at 20% is maybe going to be the more realistic guy that you can look to add. But if not, guys, likely to return this week is Isaiah Likely, still only rostered in 12% of Yahoo leagues. And man, Jake, it would just be the most Mark Andrews thing ever for him to finally get going once Isaiah Likely is back and once everyone, including you and me, have been so pissed off at the guy that we moved him into our bench. So any thoughts on Fannin, Strange, or Likely?
I'm definitely big on Fannin. This week, it's a tough overall matchup against that Green Bay defense that's just looked amazing, if I do say so myself. But you got to expect at least they'll be just trying to get that ball out of Flacco's hand as fast as possible. Hopefully that goes a lot to Harold Fannin. Maybe a lot of Dylan Sampson this week too. But I like Fannin. I was going to say Juwan Johnson is like the slam dunk. But if somebody panic dropped Mark Andrews, oh, baby, just go out and scoop him up and just see. At least that way you can send the good vibes to us other Mark Andrews managers, if nothing else.
And I feel like you're just kind of, once someone else drops Mark Andrews in your league, like you know it's going to come back to bite them. So why not be the person that you know is going to be benefiting from that? So again, guys, this has been fun. Thank you to Kusos. And remember, Kusos and Fantasy Life are teaming up for the No Bad Beats, No Bad Meats campaign. Each week during the season, we're giving away free Kusos all natural seasoning, sauces, and more to 3 unlucky yet lucky winners who share their most epic bad beat stories. So if you're going to have a bad beat, at least let us know about it. Scan the QR code to load, and we can at least give you some good old Kusos for your trouble. So again, scan that QR code right here or find the link in the description. KusoCuts.com/fantasylife to submit your bad beat stories and get on the show. And with that, guys, we are moving right along. We got some 3 things to go ahead and draft. Love doing my drafts with Jake and Cooter, who cannot join us today. But first, though, a quick word to our friends over at Mike's Hard Lemonade. Look, if you're deep in the fantasy trenches like us, you already know that to win it all, you've got to go hard. And guys, Fantasy HQ, powered by Mike's Hard Lemonade, is the ultimate tool for fantasy sickos. From managing all your fantasy leagues in one place to receiving personalized expert advice, dominate your fantasy season by using Fantasy HQ and enjoying a Mike's Hard Lemonade while sweating your matchups on Sundays. Check out Fantasy HQ at fantasylife.com and find Mike's nearest you at mikeshard.com. Nobody makes lemonade like Mike's. Note that Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors. All registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Company in Chicago, Illinois. As we do every Wednesday on the Fantasy Life Show, it's time to draft 3 downs, 3 things, whatever you want to call it, Jake. And today's topic is going to be depth chart changes that we would like to see. So, okay, it's one of these things where, in my 10 things article, I was talking about just the rookie running backs who are behind these veterans, Travion behind Ramondre Stevenson, RJ Harvey behind J.K. Dobbins. And I had the caveat that these veterans are playing good. Don't be yelling at the coaches. They're doing what they want to do. And these veterans are playing good. So don't be yelling at them either. But Jake, we fantasy managers can sometimes be a little bit annoying, and we just want things to happen regardless of not they deserve to happen. So that kind of is, again, the purpose of today. So why don't you start us off, Jake, with your first depth chart change that you would like to see?
I'm so glad you gave that caveat, Ian, because this is a thing where, based off last week's game, they're making the right decision, but I want them to make the wrong decision for my fantasy team, which is Travion Henderson being the lead running back in New England. I was absolutely floored to find out that 55-yard catch and run by Ramondre Stevenson, a career long, by the way, for him, that was originally schemed up for Henderson in practice, but because he kept getting all these holding calls against him, they basically sat him and said, Mondre, get out there. You're going to be on the receiving end of this now. And he looked great doing it. After 1 week, though, Mike Vrabel had previously said, we just got to do a better job of getting Travion Henderson into space. He needs more space. Well, I want him to get more space as well. I want to get more space from my opponents in fantasy as well when I start Travion Henderson. So if he could do me that solid, that would be great.
Again, RB3 in the ranks this week. I think he came in as my RB34, RB35. So not going to be a suggested start in some of these closer start-sit decisions. But to Jake's point, let's try to get him Antonio Gibson's touches at least. Okay, again, not even trying to take anything away from Ramondre Stevenson. Never, thought that he was going to become a complete afterthought in this equation. But man, Jake, again, had the pass protection problems, was holding. You can't be doing that. It makes sense why the Patriots did what they did, and Josh McDaniels made the decisions that he made. And obviously, Stevenson, was doing his thing out there as well. But man, Travion Henderson, at least for me and Dwayne's bank account, man, would be a lot cooler if he could start putting up some numbers here soon. So I'm going to stick with the rookie running backs. Mine's with Ashton Genty, though. I do not want to see Zamir White or Dylan Labe on the sideline unless Ashton Genty pulls himself off the field. Okay, Jake. In the fourth quarter of a game that was never outside of 2 scores, like it was a fairly close game throughout most of Monday night. We saw Zamir White and Dylan Labe play 10 snaps, and Ashton freaking Genty, the guy that you spent the 6th overall pick on, only played 9. So Genty was even asked today about being ready for a larger workload. And his quote was, I don't think you draft a guy like me to not give me carries and touches. I agree. What are we doing here? So again, I'm not saying that Genty needs to be playing 100% of the snaps or anything, but man, sub 60% is ridiculous. And I just feel like Chip Kelly, man, maybe getting a little too cute with all this stuff. Again, nothing against Michael Mayer and even nothing against White and Lobby, obviously, but you got Brock Bowers, you got Ashton Genty. It's like Ted Lasso said, you got 2 aces, use them.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a funnel offense, Ian. It's supposed to be one receiver, one running back, one tight end. That's what we signed up for, and we're not getting it right now. So I don't know if the Raiders play the Lions at all this year. I sure hope they don't, because he's going to be sat by like the middle of the second quarter at this rate once they run up the score.
Unreal. So again, one Henderson, Gent to be getting those workloads up there. Jake, what's the second depth chart change you would like to see?
I'm going to stick with rookie running backs. We're developing a theme here, but I know Kendall Valenzuela would also agree with this decision to get Cam Scatterboo in there as the definitive RB1 for the Giants. This is also not a take against Tyrone Tracy. I think he is very competent, very capable running back, former wide receiver. And, even if you want to keep him in there to do more of the pass catching, Tyrone Tracy, that's fine. But what I saw from Cam Scatterboo with the explosive runs, and thankfully, they let him finish off that run with a touchdown when he was down at like the half-yard line. That at least was nice. That was a step in the right direction. But I think he should be handling basically all of the rushing duties from this point forward. Maybe throw him a couple of targets here and there too, just to keep us all happy in fantasy land. But I would like to see a lot more from him.
Forks up certainly was trending that way last week, but again, it's a situation where we're not totally sure if he's going to be the workhorse yet, or if it could be a little bit still more of a 1A, 1B between him and Tyrone Tracy. So good news is again that we saw that boom against the Cowboys. Obviously, that will probably be the biggest boom that we get from the Giants offense this year, but really did look, much more underwhelming in week one against the Commanders. So we will see what is on tap for Sunday night's football game there against the Kansas City Chiefs. The only two teams I might add, Jake, are the Chiefs and Giants this year, whose leading rusher is actually their quarterback. So hopefully Scatterboo can go ahead and change that here very soon. I'm going to be going to a tight end who actually found a new team this offseason. Can we give Evan Ingram a full-time role already? Okay, so it was nice seeing Bo Nix go ahead and just get back to actually putting up good passing numbers in week 2 against the Colts. But man, through 2 weeks, Evan Ingram, who I understand got banged up in week 1 and had the calf injury, but wasn't even questionable going into week 2. So we have reason to believe that he has been fully healthy. Through 2 weeks, guys, Evan Ingram has 36 routes. Adam Troutman and Lucas Kroll have 37. Come on. What are we doing here? I know Ingram's going to be getting targeted more than those guys when he actually is out there running routes. But you know what, Jake? Last time I checked, you actually can't get the football if you are standing on the sideline. So you paid the guy. Your offense has been looking for more help, particularly in the yak game. Like, you're not using RJ Harvey now. Like, they're using Troy Franklin almost as their yak guy. And hey, had a good week and everything. But if you would have asked me before the year, like, who's going to be the most likely player to actually be, the beneficiary of Sean Payton's well-designed, kind of short, yak-friendly targets, man, I would have ranked Troy Franklin like 6th or 7th most likely behind some of these dudes. So Evan Ingram, again, not saying he's been, the world's best tight end over the years, but we saw him consistently be a mid-tier tight end one in Jacksonville. I am shocked to see that we haven't had a better role in Denver when we've had an entire offseason to try to make something happen. So again, Jake, still only 2 weeks, but Evan Ingram so far low-key, one of the bigger disappointments I think out there.
Yeah, so much for the Joker in this offense. That was the big thing. Right. That's all we heard about all offseason from Sean Payton. I'm going to have a Joker. And then it was going to be Evan Ingram. And then it was going to be RJ Harvey. And then turns out that, it's Troy Franklin, I guess, kind of. I just think that maybe we should stop trusting Sean Payton is maybe what this tells us about his quotes throughout the offseason. There is still plenty of time, as you mentioned, though, for Evan Ingram to get back to the lead of the pack. And I think he has to, because he is far and away the best tight end on that roster.
I remember doing my Broncos team preview, and this honestly kind of cooled me off on Ingram because he was one of my most drafted players in like the earlier part of the offseason. But again, Broncos tight ends under Sean Payton really have been dead last in the NFL by targets, and it wasn't even close. So again, you're always trying to play that game where it's like, well, they didn't have a tight end like Evan Ingram, but it was like dead last by 30 or so targets, Jake. I mean, you have a long way to go to get up there to be doing anything that we're feeling good about. So your first 2 depth chart changes you want to see, Jake, Travion Henderson and Cam Scatterboo. We got a third rookie RB you want to talk about, or you can go ahead and break the trend?
I mean, look, I have to either keep the trend with a rookie running back or I talk about another tight end. But I've already talked about Mark Andrews too much in this episode, so I'm going to give our listeners a break, and I'm going to talk about another rookie running back, RJ Harvey. Why not just let RJ Harvey be the Joker in that offense? Let him be the quote-unquote lead running back. And look, I'm doing this as much for my fantasy teams as I am for the health of their other running back, who has notoriously had issues staying healthy throughout his NFL career. So if you cede some more touches to RJ Harvey, it's good for my team. It's good for your team, Sean. I think that we can all get behind this. But RJ Harvey looked Certainly dynamic when he's touched the ball in the few instances that he's gotten to do so. So seed J.K. Dobbins just a little baby step back. That's all I'm asking here.
And again, as much as the Broncos tight end kind of usage was down, their running back targets have been first under Sean Payton. And that was despite not having a great running back to throw the football to. That's what made us all so confident that RJ Harvey was going to be getting force-fed the ball. And again, Jake, through 2 weeks, Broncos running backs have 16 targets. I mean, that's tied for the sixth highest mark in the entire NFL. It's not that far removed from the league-leading 49ers, sitting up there at 23. So again, I like how you said, again, keep J.K. Dobbins fresh, but Tyler Bidet, just get out of here, man. What are you doing to us? Again, he's fine. I know he's a perfectly capable pass catcher in his own right, but you said it, man. Like, are seeing RJ Harvey actually be breaking off that huge run in week 1 and just making the most out of his opportunities. Very, very curious how he has not gotten more work, but hey, it is early after all. I'm going to finish things off complaining about another tight end room. It is going to be the Chicago Bears and Colson Loveland, man. 42 routes compared to 62 for Cole Kmet, just 3 targets compared to 6. So man, like, how do we not have a better plan here for a guy that you felt good enough about to draft with a top 10 pick in the draft? Like, that's my whole issue, Jake. The Browns spent all of training camp in the offseason. They come out in the week 1 and they just completely were so ready to have David Njoku and Harold Fannin. I don't love when the wonderkin of the NFL, Ben Johnson, is just all of a sudden looking like he can't game plan as well as the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so I understand that Kevin Stefanski has done some good things, not trying to throw any shade there, but it's like, what are we doing here? You use your first 2-round picks on these guys. Now we're leaving week 2 and we're starting to get Ben Johnson saying like, oh, I'm going to, be making some changes based on who's competing and stuff. Like, what have we been doing for the last 6 months? Okay, like, you drafted this dude, you should have had a plan, you just don't. So I'm not even saying Cole Kmet needs to be off the field either, okay? But man, can we at least get a split like the Buffalo Bills? Can we at least get maybe some slot usage? Why is Olamide Zaccheaus playing so much more than the guy who you drafted 10th overall? So again, man, it just comes back to the reality where not even trying to put down some of these other guys who were playing. I think Olamide and Burden are perfectly capable slot receivers, but reminder, you drafted him 10th overall, Jake. Can we use the guy?
I mean, this is the polar opposite situation for another rookie tight end, Tyler Warren, who came on so strong. And I was nervous to draft both of these guys, admittedly. And Tyler Warren's making me look like a dang fool. Meanwhile, Colson Loveland's making me feel like the smartest person on earth because of this. But even I didn't expect him to look this bad, not even bad, to be this underused this early in the season. I was thinking, by week 5, we'll start to see a real massive shift towards Cole Kmet, but I'm just not going to be patient enough to draft him and wait that long. Now I'm wondering if week 8, week 10, week 15, we're going to see Colson Loveland look like we want him to look.
And again, Cole Kmet had the sick one-handed catch in week 1. He's had a really good season back in 2023 with Justin Fields at the helm. Like, it's nothing against him, man. And yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be exactly fireworks out the gate. I just kind of expected more than 12 yards. Maybe I'm just, getting ahead of myself, Jake. I should have known that. Colston freaking Loveland, the guy they drafted last time, 10th overall, was going to have, 12 freaking yards through 2 weeks of action. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, Jake, as I was going through waivers last night, brilliant Ian over here, guys, a couple of weeks ago had the idea that, okay, I'll draft Mark Andrews to get me through the first couple of weeks where Colson Loveland is failing to catch on, and then we can go there. So hopefully Kate Otten or someone can help those sad sack fantasy teams now in their time of crisis. So good stuff, Jake. Again, going through the depth chart changes that we hope will happen. We'll see if they actually do. Time, though, now for a quick word to our friends over at Paramount Plus. Guys, you can't count on much these days, but you can't always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. That's right, football fans, watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. This year's schedule is absolutely stacked with rivalries and revenge games, including the next chapter of the epic Bills-Chiefs saga. So stay connected to it at home on any device or on the go. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today and count on Sundays for another must-see season of the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Let's talk some defense, Jake, because as much as I do hate kickers, I think defense gets a bad rap in the fantasy world. I actually don't mind so much having DSTs in the league as much as I don't really love the way they're necessarily scored. And for all you IDPers out there, man, much respect to you. True grinders in this fantasy world. But again, just wanted to highlight, because also the other side of things, Jake, is you want to know the defenses and who's good and who's bad, so then we can take advantage of it with the offensive players. So that's going to be the first part here, okay? I wanted to go through pass and run funnel defenses through the first couple of weeks. And what I mean by that are defenses that are so good at either stopping the pass or the run that they essentially funnel the opponent's production into the other side of things. So, Jake, looking at pass funnel groups, again, groups that have been basically really stout against the run, and accordingly, teams have had to throw on them. We have the Buccaneers, Patriots, and Raiders all working as top 5 defenses against the run, but rank among the league's bottom 10 units against the pass. So, obviously, this week, no Justin Fields going against the Buccaneers, but man, Garrett Wilson with Tyrod Taylor under center. I honestly would not be surprised if we were able to get a boom there. Similar sentiment for DK Metcalf and the Steelers going up against the Patriots. And as we mentioned earlier, make sure that we are checking out the injuries, because the return of Christian Gonzalez could fix that pass defense in a hurry. And then also Tedero McMillan against the Raiders. I think I actually have that game wrong. Who are the Raiders playing this week? They are playing the Commanders. My apologies. Going to be Terry McLaurin. That's the T-Mac I was looking for, and Deebo Samuel. But unfortunately, we do not have, again, a great quarterback situation going on. So Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, maybe a Commanders receiver, Jake. Again, a situation where they should, at a minimum, have plenty of targets to hopefully make their money.
Yeah, you hope at least 2 with the Commanders. The one thing to focus on is like Austin Eckler, sadly, out for the year. There's got to be a way that, going back to Deebo Samuel, it's like they got to find a way to continue to scheme that dude no matter what, no matter who his quarterback is. So makes me feel a little bit safer putting Deebo in my lineups. I still don't love it, but the dude has earned it, certainly at this point. And going against such a nice defensive matchup, that's just a great cherry on top.
Other side of things, some run funnel groups, teams that have been actually quite good against the pass, and accordingly perhaps is persuaded, you could say, their opponents to go ahead and run that football. The Vikings, Titans, and Colts have all put forward top 11 efforts in terms of EPA allowed per dropback, are each bottom 8 units when defending the run, though. So this week we're going to have Chase Brown, the Bengals, going up against the Vikings. And man, Chase Brown, like you talk about someone who's just not been able to get anything going on the ground, certainly could use every little matchup advantage that he can get. Also, Jonathan Taylor going up against the Titans. Hey, we've seen JT doing big things all year. You guys don't need me to start him. Maybe we get an even bigger boom going here in week 2. And then Tony Pollard here on the other sideline going up against the Colts. Someone who, again, has been getting force-fed the football, but when your offense only has one freaking touchdown in the year, tough to expect too much from your bell cow running back. But again, something to keep in mind with these teams. Hopefully, again, we have less backup quarterbacks going around in week 4 and beyond, so we can do an even better job of taking advantage of some of these matchups. Next up, Jake, I want to talk about this stat that I've seen float around more in college football circles, but I like applying it to NFL too. It is called havoc. Okay, this is the percentage of plays that a defense gets a pressure, a tackle for a loss, a forced fumble, an interception, or a pass breakup. Anything that you might consider, havoc out here. So looking at the top 10 defenses this year, I think you're going to be very pleased to see your Packers are coming in at number 2, but number 1 in havoc, and also honestly EPA per play, the Atlanta Falcons used a pair of first-round picks on those pass rushers, and man, they have been able to make a difference in a hurry. So I know JJ McCarthy effect in week 2 made their life easier, but even in week 1, man, like the Buccaneers really just won that game with better offense, in my opinion. All right. So like those 2 touchdowns from Baker to Ibuka weren't exactly blown coverage variety, just good offense beating good defense in the year 2025. So Falcons 1, Packers 2, and rounding out the top 10, Browns, Broncos, Chargers, 49ers, Raiders, Bills, Cardinals, and the Patriots. So again, Jake, your Packers, it is a situation where it's been surprising to see Micah Parsons just completely elevate that group. But man, we still thought they were going to be pretty good. Similar sentiment with the Browns and the Broncos, Chargers, but the Atlanta Falcons, number 1 defense in some of these stats in the year 2025, man. I know their fans can't believe it.
I can't believe it. They weren't on my radar to be looking at in the last rounds of my fantasy drafts. I'm skipping right over these dudes. I do want to just quickly point out, this is going to be terrible for the Packers versus Browns game that's coming up this week. We're just going to see a defensive slugfest, it sounds like. So maybe downgrades to most of the players that you have in considering starting in your lineups here this week on both sides of the ball. I don't know, maybe like 1960s style throwback to when defense was really all that mattered. That's what we might be getting this week.
Did want to highlight accordingly some of the teams that have not been able to cause really any havoc this year. The bottom 5 groups are, oh, yeah, funny how that works. The Dallas Cowboys without Micah Parsons. They just signed Jadeveon Clowney. Hopefully Overshown gets healthy here sooner rather than later. The Detroit Lions are 29th, maybe just a factor of, again, them not really having much going on in week 1. Certainly look like a better team in week 2, but Aiden Hutchinson coming back from that horrible injury, maybe still not quite refinding that what was honestly like defensive MVP level form before the issue. Got the Bears at 30th, got the Panthers at 31st. Dead last, though, and this shocks me, guys. This is really a front 7 stat. More than anything, interceptions and pass breakups not happening as often as pressures and tackles for a loss. But the Miami Dolphins, Jake, under 20%, inexcusable for this team, given that their secondary, again, is such a black hole, particularly at cornerback. So I even dug into this more. Specifically with pressure, the Dolphins ranked 30th this year, despite blitzing at the second highest clip in the league. I mean, we got Chop Robinson, we got Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. Like, you got some dogs on that defensive line. You spent a first-round pick on Kenneth Grant. That, to me, has been even more surprising in Miami than necessarily their offensive troubles. Again, just how much trouble they have had getting to the quarterback in the first place. So please, Miami, fix it. It has been very tough to watch. Maybe they have this get-right spot, though, Jake, against the Bills on Thursday night. Again, just what the Dolphins need coming back around to that. Unreal, man.
Absolutely unreal. Mike McDaniel might be on the chopping block here. Who knows? Maybe he'll be out the door before Brian Daboll. That's certainly not something that we expected coming into this season. I do want to give a quick shout out again to Bryce Young. I think it was Michael earlier was asking, who do I start for this week? And yes, as you mentioned, really bad going against the Falcons, but he does get the Patriots followed by the Dolphins in successive weeks. So really nice couple of spot starts, at least for Bryce Young coming up here.
However, as you mentioned, Falcons up next. And accordingly, those will be our DST streamer option of the week. Owned in just 1.3% of ESPN leagues are those Atlanta Falcons. And again, it's not just havoc, which is cool and is correlated to fantasy success as well, but EPA per play allowed, guys, really good stuff from the Falcons. And on the other side, Bryce Young and the Panthers have allowed back-to-back DST3 finishes overall to the Jaguars and the Cardinals. Speaking of those Jaguars, they are facing the Texans this week. Jags only owned in 2% of ESPN leagues. CJ Stroud already been sacked 6 times in 2 weeks. And again, just really have no faith in that Nick Haley-led Texans offense right now. And otherwise, I would be going down to the Indianapolis Colts, owned in 35.5% of ESPN leagues, but they are facing Cam Ward and the Titans, who have already taken a league-high 11 sacks through 2 weeks. And just success rate, explosive plays, they have not been able to get anything going thus far. So a couple tough matchups. I mean, the Broncos and the Rams, I think, are going to be 2 of most people's ideas of top 10, if not even top 5 units, the way Los Angeles is playing right now. But yeah, Jake, Colts, Jaguars, Falcons, any of those, you particularly like in terms of streaming a defense?
Yeah, I would default almost to the Colts here just because of the consistency aspect of it. Like I still find a little bit of trust issues just for a 2-week sample size, of course. So I like to be able to fall back on a defense where I go like, all right, coming into the season, they're kind of doing what I expected them to do. So I would default to them.
I also just think, man, looking at, again, the situation that we're going to have with that Colts defense, I can never say his name exactly right. Lou Anarumo. I mean, again, who's going to know Brian Callahan's offense better than the guy who was coaching alongside him for all those years in Cincinnati? Again, could be a really rough one for Cam Ward. Looking forward to Cam Ward eventually finding his footing because he has had some flashes out there. But again, don't think it's going to be here in this spot. But guys, that's going to do it for this week's edition of today's edition, I should say, of the Fantasy Life Show. We appreciate you, Jake. We will have the great Doodle back next Wednesday and beyond. Make sure you check us out tomorrow. Myself, Dre McFarland, and Matthew Friedman going through all the top ranks to get you ready for week 3. So with that, guys, thank you, Jake. Thank you, producer Matt. Thank you, producer Kelsey. And thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Fantasy Life Show. Until next time, take care, everybody.